Wanna know the secret to cooling a Ryzen? Let me explain.
If this is a dream and you have a safe full of secrets, I need to know what's in that safe.
So, I already did a video explaining why Ryzen 3000 is in fact running hot, and some small steps on how to combat that in my first video on YouTube. Now I will explain why a 240mm all-in-one water cooler is more than enough to keep your Ryzen cool, even if you rock the 16-core monster. In fact, AMD suggests a 240mm AIO for your Ryzen 9 3950X. Going back to my first video, we came to the conclusion that Ryzen has an extremely high heat density, but not high heat output compared to its Intel counterpart. This is especially pronounced in the Ryzen 7 series, because there the density is at its highest. Now, when we look at the difference of common AIO sizes of 120, 240, 280 and 360mm, usually the only difference is the size of the radiator, with it the amount of water and the fan count. What more water and a bigger radiator give you is the ability to soak up more heat with a water amount and dissipate it with a bigger surface area of the radiator. Often when you watch reviews of water cooling gear as opposed to air cooling gear, you hear the reviewer saying that they let the test run for a longer period of time with a water cooler. Words like equilibrium get thrown around. For the most part it boils down to this, pun intended. Your CPU produces X amount of heat, normally measured in watts, while your cooler dissipates Y watts, and the amount of water is a bolster able to soak up Z watts. Equilibrium is meant to be the point at which the bolster is no more. For the financially inclined, it's like income Y, expense X and savings Z, for lack of better analogy. As for heat density, the analogy would be more like this. You have a stretched piece of fabric, a 1 kilogram weight and a knife. You could put that weight on the fabric without it tearing apart, but if that weight is applied to the knife, it would tear the fabric. Make sense? Let's continue. The heat density is only taken care of by your CPU block, and from one size model to another, the CPU block stays the same. All Ryzen high-end CPUs are made to fit the power envelope of around 100 watts. Even a 120mm AIO will cool that. Why I don't suggest you get yourself a 120mm cooler for the higher end lines is because while it could cool 100 watts of heat, it may have to speed up its fans to an unpleasant sound level to achieve that. The 240mm all-in-one water cooler, on the other hand, is the perfect balance in all regards. It takes care of the density with its cold plate, and it dissipates it over 2 fans while staying quiet enough for you to not reach for that noise-cancelling headphone. Now, performance may be the major driver for component choices, but often aesthetics is shortly behind pure performance, especially with the rise of glass-sided cases that show off your PC's guts. Then a whole new aspect is to be considered, and a 280 or even 360mm AIO would become a necessity. And while those do add extra cost to the equation, don't be fooled to think it's all for aesthetics alone. I found myself at this exact decision. I could have gone for a 240mm AIO to keep my Ryzen 7 3800X cool while overclocked to 4.4 GHz. Or I could go 360 and fill out my Lian Li 011 Dynamic with full glass front and side. What I did get in return, except that my PC doesn't seem to have a random empty spot, I made my PC virtually silent under full CPU load, as the fans give a slight hum, just loud enough to let you know the PC is running. So stick the info from the first and this video together, and let's boil down to 2 recommendations for you to cool your Ryzen. From extended research I can give recommendations for a bling option and a pure performance option. If it's just performance you're after, and your case doesn't show off too much internal parts, the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 line, starting from the 240mm size, can be found here in Europe for around 80 euros and should equate 1-to-1 in dollar price, if the price hikes in these plagued times aren't too severe. So wait for the price to normalize, because the $110 I see in the US are just too high. As for its benefits, it gives you chart-topping performance, especially when you want it quiet. And then there is the bling option. The most enthusiast-centric PC part YouTuber, Gamers Nexus, tested the freshly released AIO from EK water blocks with flying colors. And it is well deserved. Asus had this market in its grips for the longest time. Now that grip is loosened and we see improved designs like these 2 coolers. EK water blocks gives you again chart-topping performance and the bling to boot. It would be my go-to if I wasn't water cooling already. If in the next 1 or 2 years I would again be searching for an AIO, I would invest in this. With that said, I hope you liked the video, and if you did, you could use the thumbs up button down below. The subscribe button seems to do its job fairly fine as well if you would like future content like this. Bye bye.